What are the 3 changes you have seen in facilitation since you began?
Well, let me start with that one. I've seen a lot of changes in the last 33 years of facilitating. First one, I noticed when I first started, I had to explain to everybody what a facilitator was. They thought that was strange. They didn't know what I was, what I did.
Oh, I got it, but I'm sorry. We run this thing, right? Findafacilitator.com. If you could look over the requests we get on that site. I'd like for you to facilitate my husband paying child support. Do you have a facilitator who can help me find a job? I mean, it is amazing what people think facilitation is.
Well, in the beginning, and what's changed is in the beginning, they didn't know what it is. Now they use it for everything under the sun. If it moves, someone's a facilitator. I listened to a presentation from someone talking about all their hosts and guides. They were the facilitators. I'm going, it's gotten so diluted. If it moves, it's a facilitator, and it drives me up the wall. And I think that's the biggest change. We've gone from obscurity to dilution almost.
Nice way to describe it. Well, and one of the things then, and it makes sense because if facilitation means to make easy, everybody wants to make easy.
That's right.
So, hey, let me make this easy, let me make this easy. So everyone is truly a facilitator. I think when we start talking about group facilitator or meeting facilitator or training facilitator or whatever that is, we have to, I think, get to the point where, one, we put an adjective in front of the word facilitator, but at the same time, if you really think about it, it's an opportunity that's tremendous. Because as I like to think, I have two young people. I would love for them to be taught by a teacher who understands facilitation skills. Right? It'd be great if we had doctors who understood facilitation skills. Right? And so it's kind of, it really is, and you talk about how facilitation is a function, not just a role.
That's right.
And that if we can drive it to be a function, that would be great. Well, that's where we've got to get to.
Well, and I think the qualifying it is very important.
Yes.
So I think that's one of the biggest changes that I've seen. I've also seen, when I began, they also used to ask me, when do we use facilitation?
Yes.
And I went through, jumping through hoops trying to figure out how do we qualify it. It boiled down to something real simple. If there's 2 or more people that are involved and they've got to do something, you can actually facilitate. It can last 5 minutes, it can last days, it can do 2 people. I've been in ones with America Speaks, we had 13,000 people.
Wow.
So the numbers and the time, it's just 2 or more people have to decide, facilitate it.
There you go.
Real simple.
And that says it. If there's a decision where, as we like to say, if we all have to agree on something, and the all can be 2 people, as you said, 13,000, if we all have to agree, there you go. Where's my facilitator?
That's right.
I'm still waiting to get that call, Ingrid, from Obama saying, hey, would you facilitate? Fortunately, it hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, maybe a bit late for his call, since he has, a few months left. But I was just going to say the other change that's a little bit on the positive side is that many more people now do realize they need it. And I think one of the areas where probably nobody expected the need to be so great was in the area of engineering, project management, process improvement. So they have these process improvement teams, and nobody thought they needed any soft skills, but then in the end, they have a team and a committee they work with, and they need to make those decisions together, and they need structuring tools. And so I think they've been a real driving force for getting it into the workplace today. The other area, I think, is teaching. Teaching is an area where facilitation is becoming better understood because education is becoming less rote. And I think there's a real emphasis now on creative learning instead of teaching. So that's where facilitation is the key. Now, the question is, do teachers know how to facilitate? Have they ever been taught? And one would wonder what their definition is. But I think the need is beginning to emerge in more fields. So that is on the upside.
Which is one of the things that I've seen too. I remember when we started in the 80s and the 90s pushing facilitation, we were looking to get cadres of facilitators. The only cadres I'm seeing that are going to last are the independents like us who do this for a living. Internally, you don't find a job description for a facilitator, but in almost every job description, they need facilitation skills. And techniques like Agile, Scrum, Lean, Six Sigma, all those things demand groups. They need facilitation skills.
They do. Also, I think on the plus side, organizations do have internal OD people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the interesting thing about internal OD, because I've worked in internal OD, is that sometimes they don't see themselves as certified professional facilitators. They don't seem to go that route as much as they probably need to.
Yeah.
So a lot of them, I think, are sort of assuming they have the skills, just sort of because they know OD practices, they assume that they're excellent facilitators. So, but there are at least OD people in organizations where 40 years ago maybe there weren't any. So that's also a plus.
Another change that's worth, I want to give lots of accolades to the IAF, the International Association of Facilitators. Again, you were once chair of that association. I can remember vividly, when I say vividly, in 1996, it was the third ever conference of the International Association of Facilitators. They had the keypad devices for voting, remember those?
Oh, yeah.
This was in Dallas. And they were voting on different things. How important is facilitation? And you get the classic U-shaped curve. You ask another question, classic curve. Then they asked, should facilitators be certified? It was the reverse U. A few people saying absolutely, or a lot of people saying absolutely, a lot of people saying absolutely not. Very few in the middle. Meaning there was such, well, no, they shouldn't be certified. This is something for everybody. It was amazing. And yet today, the IAF, back in 2003, said, let's do this thing called certification. And now there are over 500 CPFs around the world.
Yeah.
Now, that is amazing to the...
It is an amazing achievement. I wonder if a lot of the people who said no just weren't aware of how crucial it is for people to have training. Because I think too many people do facilitation without the proper training, without really understanding the depth of what's involved. And again, in my training classes, I have people coming up to me all the time saying, I had no idea there was so much involved. I had no idea there were so many processes to learn. So I think, again, it's misunderstood. If people understood fully how much it takes to become proficient, they would understand the need for not only certification, but better training.
And that would help, I think, in the dilution bit of the name. When people realize this is not something you do because you've got a nice personality and you stand in front of people, you actually have to know a bunch of stuff. We've worked hard. I've spent 33 years learning it, and it's going to take a long time before I really master it, I think. It's something you learn all the time.
And I want to go where you went, because this is even, Ingrid, I taught our 4-day class last week, and I teach maybe once a year that 4-day class. And I had someone who was really good and learned a lot. She went very far over the 4 days. And she said at the end of class in front of everyone that when my boss suggested I take this course, I was like, what in the hell am I going to do in 4 days learning facilitation? And she essentially said, this really should be a 5-day course. Meaning that after she went through it and she understood it, when we send and that speaks to really the experience of what we've seen.
Right.
When we send one of our junior facilitators to a client and we get the ratings, we rate on a 0 to 7, that junior facilitator will get 6 and 7s. When that junior facilitator is grouped with one of our veteran facilitators, the veteran facilitator will get all 7s. The junior facilitator will get 5s at the highest. The point being, people don't know great facilitation until they've seen it.
Right.
They think what they are seeing is really, really good. That's one of the reasons why certification is so important, because it says, here's an external body saying whether or not you've achieved it. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention also the master facilitation done by the International Institute for Facilitation that really says, here's the highest we know, the highest mark that you can achieve.
And I think the certification, what it's done for facilitation and what it's helping do is the same thing that the PMP and the other certifications have done. I mean, when I became a project manager years ago, you could do it because if you spell it. Now you've got to learn how to do it, which I think is wonderful.
Yes.
And I think the same thing's got to happen with facilitation. So I think the certifications are, that and the Facilitation Impact Awards has really highlighted the fact that you've got to know what you're doing.
Yes.
And I think that's one of that and the certification, probably the two best things the IAF has ever done to help the industry.
Well, and what you said is so important that we often will see an industry association as a club, where once a year we get to see our good friends, we get to, and we attract other people, but it's really about developing the individual. When that's important, the development of individuals is important, but an industry-leading association is about leading the industry. And you used the term that we are called the industry association with 1,200 members worldwide is called the International Association for Facilitators, which means, hey, we're here helping the facilitators, which is very different from the International Association for Facilitation, which is really about moving the industry. And facilitation is so important that somehow or another we really have to be dedicated to moving the industry. And I agree with you. My personal vision of the Facilitation Impact Awards, it's about, one, showing the world that facilitation is having significant impact. Numbers that are being achieved, results, real results through facilitation. And at the same time, capturing the stories so that anybody who wants to can go to the IAF website and see, hey, here's some different ways that your organization can use facilitation. And that is cool.
That's great.
That's really cool. So I feel good about that.